now like to welcome Professor Dr. Marc Groenhuijsen to the stage. He's actually on the stage, I guess, to the lectern. Professor Groenhuijsen is Professor of Criminal Law, Criminal Procedure and Victimology at Tilburg University in the Netherlands. In 2005, he became the founding director of Intervict, the International Victimology Institute at Tilburg. He has published widely on various victims' issues. He's president of the World Society of Victimology and a member of the board of directors of the International Society for Criminology. He also serves as a part-time judge in the Court of Appeal in Arnhem in the Netherlands. As I said, he's extensively published, and he's also received several prestigious awards or prizes that recognise the work and the contributions he has made to victimology, including the Dr. Hendrik Muller Prize for Behavioural and Social Sciences, awarded by the Royal Netherlands Academy of Arts and Sciences. Please join me in welcoming Professor Marc Groenhuijsen.
Well, thank you very much for this extremely generous introduction. Excellencies, dignitaries, ladies, gentlemen. First of all, I'm very happy that all of you managed to squeeze into this very small room. It is an honor and a pleasure to welcome all of you here on behalf of the Executive Committee of the World Society of Victimology. I'm grateful to the dignitaries for being present and to the sponsors of this event. Their presence means a lot to us. Without the sponsors, this symposium would not have been possible. However, their financial contribution is only part of the situation. We are well aware of the fact that they are truly committed to our mission, which is to try to make this world a better place for victims. I extend a special word of welcome to the main speakers in this symposium. Your qualifications and academic backgrounds assure that we are going to have a very interesting meeting of the most prominent victimologists in this world. Above all, a special word of welcome to you, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, the hundreds of participants who will effectively make or break this symposium. And since I know so many of you personally, I am confident that you will not break it, but rather will turn this event into a glorious success. Now please allow me to turn to substance. I have a very simple story to tell, and I want to connect with the dedicated people in this audience. The story starts with an Oxford student named Iona Wells, a 20-year-old woman. Earlier this year, Iona Wells was violently assaulted while walking from her local tube station in Camden in North London. Afterwards, she wrote to her 70-year-old attacker saying she refuses to become a victim or change her behavior. In a famous open letter to my assaulter for her university's newspaper, she described the horror of the attack, but said it had not shaken her faith in her community to come together, quote unquote, like an army. Iona Wells described the moment her attacker pounced on her in a darkened street, clasping his hand around her mouth and smashed her head against the pavement as she screamed for help. And then she wrote to her attacker, "I don't know anything about you, but I do know this. You did not just attack me that night. I am a daughter. I am a friend. I am a girlfriend. I am a pupil. I'm a cousin. I am a niece. I'm a neighbor. I am the employee who served everyone down the road coffee in the cafe under the railway. And all the people who form those relations to me make up my community, and you assaulted every single one of them." And in a message of defiance, she then added, "My community will not feel we are unsafe walking back home after dark. We will get on the last tube home, and we will walk up our streets alone, because we will not ingrain or submit to the idea that we are putting ourselves in danger in doing so. We will continue to come together like an army when any member of our community is threatened. And this is a fight you will not win. And then in the closing paragraphs of this open letter, she wrote, I personally felt that by showing my face and revealing my identity, I could encourage others to feel empowered and speak out. There is a very dangerous culture of victim blaming, whereby people can feel that because they walked a certain place or a certain time or wore a certain item of clothing, that they are to blame. And that idea is beyond wrong. She said she hoped the phrase, "the victim is never guilty," would become a household term. And she added that for her attacker, seeing a face and seeing a strong story is more effective than any sentence imposed by a criminal court. That's the end of my story. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our business. This has been our profession for many years, as academics and as service providers. This is what the World Society of Victimology is all about. This is what we stand for. And some of the key words are resilience, empowerment, blaming the victim, including self-blame. We have to deal with the extremely low reporting rates, like in the United Kingdom, 88% unreported sex offenses. And then on top of that, very high attrition rates. How does that correspond to the idea of the right to access to justice for victims? And we have to deal with central concepts like social solidarity, communitarianism. This is the core business of victim support. This is the core business of reforming the criminal justice system. The last time, ladies and gentlemen, we assembled in Australia for a World Society of Victimology symposium was in 1994 in Adelaide. And afterwards, after the event, I wrote a report. And of course, I checked my notes before traveling to Perth this year. And of course, I asked myself the question, what has changed in victimology during the past 21 years? And why? Why did change occur? Who deserves the credit for any progress made? And remember, success has many fathers, while failure is an orphan. Academically, I feel confident to report some real progress. Let me just mention one example. In 1994 in Adelaide, no less than 8 papers were presented on the issue of victim impact statements. In 4 of them, the victim impact statement was promoted and defended. The other 4 argued against them. That is, because they were supposed not to serve the best interests of victims. It was argued that they would raise expectations that could never be met. Victim impact statements would create the impression that they would influence the actual sentencing process, which was never going to happen, and thus create disappointment on the part of victims. And the instrument of the victim impact statement would disturb criminal trials and would emotionalize the process and lead to unacceptable delays. That was the argument 21 years ago. At that time, the empirical evidence was mixed. Today, some 2 decades later, we are better informed. We know much more about the effects of victims actually participating in trials. We know that the predicted negative effects of a victim impact state did not materialize. And we have gained a better understanding of why the beneficial effects of using this instrument are both substantial and rewarding. Likewise, we, the members of the World Society of Victimology, really have made progress in assessing and explaining the psychological implications of many forms of victimization. And this body of knowledge has subsequently been translated into legislative reform, into policy measures, and into improved service provision. In terms of service provision, I mentioned the immense proliferation of national victim support organizations, and also the impressive improvement of the quality of service provision, the professionalization of these services. We have come such a long way from the old days in which service provision was more like tea and sympathy. Rights, legal reform. We have seen so much new and more sophisticated victims' rights. Legislation was improved in many countries and also on the international level. So my conclusion is there are many positives. Are there also remaining challenges? Yes, of course. Of course, we have many standards, but in so many countries, there is a virtual absence of real compliance. It's only law in the books, there's no law in action. In countries who do not seem to care at all. So the question is, why are there still many countries who do not really care about victims of crime? And even in countries who do care, serious problems remain. Let me just mention my own country as an example. We have so many problems in effectively reporting crime, some types of crime. I was involved in a case of serious domestic violence where it took us 5 months in order to actually get the crime recorded and reported. So I do hope and I trust that this symposium will contribute in addressing these remaining challenges and many others. And in conclusion, I have to say, in many ways, it has been a success story. 21 years of progress since the last symposium in Adelaide. And who deserves the credit for this progress? In my humble opinion, it is primarily academics, the NGOs providing services, and government officials who have shaped the new policies. In short, people like the members of the World Society of Victimology, the very same people who are present in this audience. So you are my heroes, and thank you very much for that. Thank you.